Welcome to SVG-TV News for Monday, September 5th, 2016. I'm Lafern Fraser with the details. Opposition leader Arnim Eustace is questioning Prime Minister and Minister of Finance Dr. Ralph Gonsalves' recent claims that this country's economy is in good shape. On radio today, Eustace outlined that according to Gonsalves, total revenue and grants amounted to $336 million, up 6.7%. However, the opposition leader says that when grants are excluded, the total revenue is $327 million, while this country's expenditure is $322 million. He said the statements made by Dr. Gonsalves to the media are mere gimmicks to fool this country's citizens.
The expenditure without the grants was more than the revenue. Okay? And your capital expenditure now, which are projects, whatever sector, health or roads or whatever sector, fell by 1/4. That's a good report. This can't be a good report. It can't be anything to be proud about. If capital expenditure, even if you want to be generous and say the current budget as one that pays salaries and so on, you had enough with the grants to cover that. You had no surplus, really, of any chance to do anything.
True.
And that is why the capital projects have to fall, because you have to make a contribution to that too. And there was no surplus to make any contribution to that, because we spent virtually all that we had.
The opposition leader predicted that there will be a shortfall at year end and the government will not meet the estimates they initially outlined.
Already down by 1/4 on that alone. So what is there to brag about? That's the one that give projects that create some additional employment. Because you say, but so-and-so, they're paid anyway. But you get new stuff, new employment, because of projects that are being done by government.
Yes.
And by the private sector. And they're not doing very well. You haven't heard any banks have a lot of problems with loans to private people and charging you all kinds of taxes and so on, because they're not lending as much as they used to lend. But all that is covered up in this statement here. The statement does not give you a picture of what is true and what it means in terms of the performance up to July. So all these things are designed to fool the public, you know. And if you don't bring the information before the public to improve their understanding and their perception of what is happening in our country, we are failed in the public.
A number of schools across SVG reopened today for the start of the new academic year. In this report by Nolisha Miller, some principals and teachers outlined their strategies for motivating their students.
A new school year has begun, which means educators must be prepared to take on the challenges ahead and ensure they provide the necessary guidance to their students. Acting principal of the Kingston Anglican School, Laura Mofford, says her teaching strategies include a diagnosis, which is used to identify her students' weak areas. She says her experience has taught her that some children perform better in groups, and this academic year will see the implementation of different teaching methods and activities.
Some students are special in their learning, so if they work better in groups, we'll put them in groups, for instance in science and social studies. We will try new strategies as well, for instance in the science, where we can use household items to bring out practicals so that the children's learning can improve and can have them excited for this new subject or this new topic.
And what about maths and English? I know you spoke about maths, but what about English also? Is it a weak area?
Well, there is room for improvement. What we do have is a miscue analysis, what we have in reading. So what we will do, we will use that and find out the children's weaknesses. And what we do, we'll build on it through developing their phonetic skills, word study skills, etc.
Moffat says she also planned to motivate her staff with the introduction of a Teacher of the Year award. Meantime, teachers of the St. Martin's Secondary School, like Licia Harry and Shawnette Bino, say they are trying to break away from the traditional chalk and board teaching method and implement more visual arts.
Charts, graphs, things like that, diagrams, drawing diagrams. I am incorporating an even stronger use of the textbook So I'm going to be incorporate that into my instruction as well. And I want to use some interesting and creative methods like you incorporating singing, drama, things like that into my teaching and into the student activities.
I plan to implement a lot of visual aid, especially PowerPoints and videos, because in comparison to last year, I used it, yes, but it was not that much. But I do realize that boys are visual learners and they need to see. And even though that I may demonstrate, I have to bring other videos to show like different ways in which things can be done.
Principal of the St. Joseph Convent Marico, Sister Jacintha Wallace, says this academic year they will build upon some of that which already exists.
Just to build on what we already have in place, to make a special outreach, special remediation plans for those who are weak, to encourage them to perform at their max.
What strategies do you plan to implement in terms of managing your staff and motivating them?
I feel the staff have really bought into the vision that we want to put out there, that it's not just about the head of the child, it's about the whole child.
English language teacher Vasitha Barber says her academic strategy involves building a good relationship with her students. Nolisha Miller, The Evening News.
And Minister of Education Sinclair Jimmy Prince is calling for higher levels of enthusiasm and collaboration to enhance education in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In his annual back-to-school address earlier today, Monday, September 5th, Prince took the opportunity to wish all students, educators, administrative staff, stakeholders, and parents a successful school year despite the challenges that lie ahead.
Head teachers, parents, we are all integral to the education of our children. So as we plan and work together, I remind us that forging a strong relationship between home and the school is very beneficial to the students' academic, social, and emotional growth. Some schools and classrooms will begin on a sad note, knowing that at least one classmate or one teacher will not be returning. Heartfelt prayers and condolences are extended to their immediate families and to the school families. The Ministry of Education is pleased to announce that the Canouan Government School has returned to its home. The Ministry of Education thanks the parents, students, and teachers for their patience and understanding. We thank the leadership and members of the Canouan Anglican Church and the Canouan Seventh-day Adventist Church for responding to the request of the ministry for the use of their churches to house the children during the last few weeks of the last term.
Commending the work of past Chief Education Officer Luann Gilchrist, the minister thanked the entire teaching fraternity for their continued involvement in the development of this nation's educational system.
I congratulate the Chief Education Officer, Ms. Luann Gilchrist, on her new assignment to the USA. The education fraternity says thank you for your invaluable service and for quite ably managing a very challenging education system. We wish you well on your new journey. We salute the principals, head teachers, and teachers who are currently on pre-retirement leave. We recognize the contribution given by each one over the years, and we say a heartfelt thank you for your meaningful and dedicated service. Teachers, we commend you for your dedicated service, and I encourage you to continue to upgrade your skills, reflect on your practice, and endeavor to meet the varying needs in today's diverse classrooms.
While noting that the nation continues to depend on educators for the effective education of the youth, Prince stressed the need for parents' involvement in the process.
Parents, I encourage you to be true partners in your children's education. As parents, you have a responsibility to ensure they are loved and given the proper guidance. It is not enough to just send them to school. You must ensure they get adequate sleep to prepare for classroom work the next day. You must monitor their homework, encourage good study habits, take an interest in the child's extracurricular activities, and, very importantly, ensure they have a healthy snack. Please minimize the amount of salt and sugar. We cannot lose sight of what is important. Every plan, everything we do must be geared towards making each student's educational experience an excellent one, preparing that child to be well-adjusted and rounded citizen, ready to make a significant contribution to society.
The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Teachers Union, the SVG-TU, is calling on the Public Service Commission to immediately reinstate Mr. Colbert Bowens to his post as principal of the Fancy Government School. Bowens, who had been charged on November 11, 2015 in connection with the death of 7 students in the rock gutter incident, was cleared of all charges. A media release from the SVG-TU stated that Bowens, who was suspended when the charges charges were first laid against him, remains suspended from his post despite having been cleared of all charges since May 4th, 2016, and the SVGTU regards the continued suspension of Bowens as a grave travesty of justice of the most egregious kind, since Bowens continued to be punished for crimes for which he was duly cleared by the laws of the state. According to the SVGTU, it condemns in the strongest terms any further persecution of Bowens and calls for his immediate reinstatement with all benefits intact. In more local news, there is no proliferation of gangs and gang-related activity in SVG. This was the opinion of Phil Call Jeffers, youth officer within the Ministry of National Mobilization, as he spoke on Sunday's edition of Hits FM's Hits Talk. Jeffers stated that in SVG there are several groups which have been called gangs but do not meet the set requirements such as basic signs, leadership structures, and types of behaviors which exist within a criminal gang. Jeffers, using one example, stated that these groups, if given the opportunity, can have a positive impact on the community within which they reside.
Is that there was an area that was really filled with refuge. And after the discussions that we had with these guys, they took that same area and turned it into a pool by the use of cleaning out the wall structure that was there, putting in a piece of plywood, plugging the holes, fill it with seawater, and that's where they eventually went and had their fun. They even had a wet fete when we had street theater to talk about the ills of some of the ills of society. So for me, when we talk about what the gang activities are, we need to talk about the groupings, because when you say gang, it gives a different connotation than the grouping itself. And also when you look at what a gang is supposed to be, if you check around St. Vincent and the Grenadines, when you look at these past activities that are connected with criminal elements and with violent activities, you can pinpoint where they are connected, and it's more than one. It has to be with narcotics.
Station Sergeant Junior Simmons of the Royal SVG Police Force is also of the opinion that these groups do not fit the set requirements to be called gangs. The Station Sergeant added that despite this, the RSVG Police Force has been proactive in hotspot areas where groups exist and have been working with the various stakeholders to make communities safer.
Police has always been working hard throughout the every community in St. Vincent Grenadines, especially in the hotspot areas, in Edinburgh, Otley Hall, and Sharps. As a matter of fact, currently, there's a police outpost in Otley Hall.
I know that.
And before that, there was a mobile station, but we are sort of make that a permanent thing right now in that area, because we realize, that the citizens there are very concerned.
And the heat growing again.
Right. So the police, we have been tackling these issues up front, and we can't do it all by ourselves. We need the support of the general public to do this, and we are very happy, for those persons who have been helping the police over the years, and we are calling on others to come on board to join the fight in tackling crime in St. Vincent Grenadines.
Meanwhile, Councillor Edward Smith acknowledged that youth today lack proper guidance and a sense of belonging which should have been provided by the family and the education system, and who therefore feel the need to join such groups to fill a void.
Like that comes out of this educational system, for example. There's no family structure to really bolster them. When they get out there and they look to life seems hopeless. They came from they're not too sure where, and they're going to they're not really sure where. So life seems hopeless, and because of that seemingly hopelessness and that feeling of isolation and aloneness, they tend to have that feeling that I am here alone, I want company. So any way they get company, they will take it. And that is why I believe to a lot of our young girls are getting pregnant, most of them are getting pregnant by older men. Because that sense of feeling of belonging is there in the older person, because they have enough experience. And these young girls polarize towards these older men because they have that sense of belonging in their company. Same thing with gangsterism, if we can call it gangsterism. These same young people who feel hopeless, who feel so isolated, they will go to any group that accepts them.
The recent price increase of fuel on the global market has seen Vincentian consumers and retailers as of last Thursday, September 1st, 2016, experience an increase in the price of liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG. The new pricing arrangements, according to Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Trade and Commerce, Nathaniel Williams, are in line with the government's subscription to the Mont Belvieu base price, which aids in effecting changes through a build-up mechanism for LPG. Williams noted that in light of the recent increase, the government, through his ministry, has put measures in place to safeguard the interests of both the consumers and retailers.
Maintain the Mont Belvieu price with a slightly increased premium. Okay. Because as price rise and price is rising now, that is why you see there is a rise in price. Yes. It's not because government increased the price just like that. Government, or should say the state modus operandi is transparency. The state doesn't do anything. It's really transparent. Yes. Negotiations, yes. Government has the right to set law, yes. Yet they're not just setting law. They're meeting with the people, talking to them, and let's come up with something which is reasonable. So government set zonal prices. In fact, the zonal pricing mechanism was always in place. But government ensured that the prices according to the zone, $1 more per zone, except for the grenadine. Okay. There has to be standard setting with the type of bottles we have, how you store the bottles, education for the resellers and the retailers, because some people just believe a cylinder of gas is just a cylinder of gas.
Highlighting the locations that make up the respective zones, Director of Trade Cuthbert Knights noted that through the Price and Distribution of Goods Act, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is empowered to monitor the prices of goods and take the necessary actions against persons involved in price gouging.
Zones are specified in the law as well. Area 1 is means areas with a radius of 2 miles of the courthouse, Kingstown, both on the windward and the leeward side of the island, or eastern and western. Area 2 mean areas adjoining Area 1, extending from Area 1 northeast to Langley Park and northwest to Curtains. If we take the radius from Kingstown, we may say maybe a mile out to maybe Arnesville. Right. So area 2 miles, and so the area 2 will start from Arnesville up to Langley Park. Okay. If we go to the leeward side, maybe from Kingstown around the courthouse to about Lomans. Okay. From Lomans to about Curtains. That's area 2. Area 3 are all those areas outside area 1 and 2. Right. And area 4 is the Grenadines. Right. The law also provides for redress or for penal measures to those resellers or business people who are still not adhering to the control price, to the extent that they could be fined. Yes. And the fines could be very extensive, and there's also that of imprisonment.
The director pointed out the Cabinet's recent approval to have the prices of LPG calculated on a 3-month rolling average, as is done for white gases such as diesel and kerosene. He further urged the public to be more aware of the price structure when purchasing their LPG products,
where 3 months of data is actually taken to calculate the price. And the Cabinet has recently given approval for us to take this same approach to the calculation or changing in the price of the LPG. But so it means, therefore, there is a logical approach to this, where you have a price build-up mechanism, and as your starting point is a base price, which is based on market consideration, which is very transparent, which is the Mont Belvieu. And added to that are other variables which you would use in deriving the final price. So all that will be done is that 3 months of data will be used to calculate the final price. The consumer themselves as well have the responsibility, not only the right, to ensure that they demand the receipt when they go out. And they have the right to demand that, and they also have the responsibility not to accept a good which is sold to them without a receipt, and to report such matter.
The Salt Smart Coalition in the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment has begun a series of Salt Smart exhibitions in collaboration with the local food industry as part of their salt reduction campaign. The first exhibition, which took place on Thursday, September 1st at the C.K. Graves & Company Limited Sunrise Supermarket in Arnesville, exposed patrons to low salt as well as low sugar products. Free blood pressure and glucose checks were done in collaboration with the National Diabetic and Hypertensive Association. Representative of the Ministry of Health, Nikita Lynch, said she was happy with the feedback from patrons and expressed gratitude for the information provided.
The customers are telling us that they have been watching the ads on TV and they have actually been reading the food labels, and we have a questionnaires that just generally question about what they know about salt and what they don't know and the long-term effects, and we have a page where they leave comments, queries and stuff like that. They actually mention about times where they didn't know how to read the food labels, but from the ads that have been coming on TV, they're taking it at heed and reading the food labels and using less salt. So we're talking about the sugar intake as well, because we can't just speak about one and not about the other. The both of them are silent killers, right? So here we pinpoint low sodium snacks and low sugar snacks as well. And also we have a booklet given out to the parents. It includes a bumper sticker, a bookmark, and also a booklet on recipes, low sodium and low sugar recipes that the parents can try to give this to children to take to school.
Sylvester Davis, who attended the event, thanked the ministry for embarking on such a positive initiative and further urged Vincentians to get in line with the salt reduction campaign as it represented a healthier lifestyle.
I think it's a very good idea because as a so-called Rastafarian from way back in the days, salt was one of the things that people cut out the food, and I'm glad to see you guys bring it back and make sure. I hope you can keep it this way because salt is not good for us. It's, as they say, it weakens our joints, our bone. So I'm glad to see you guys doing something which is positive. Wishing all Vincentians to reduce salt, and if you do salt, do minimum salt, especially like a lot of people like fish and chips, chicken and chips, and a lot of salt in it. Please cut it out. It's gonna stop. You have to stop it because otherwise it's gonna make you a shorter life.